I want to show you how to be intentional about designing your life, because I think if you have these goals and you want your life to look like how your vision board looks, your Pinterest board looks, or whatever, it takes a lot of intentionality with your days, and it takes kind of funneling everything down into the everyday life. So step one is to segment your big goal. Like I've found for a lot of people with New Year's goals, there is one big goal that's taking up a lot of focus, and then there are some other smaller ones as well. So the first thing we're gonna do is segment your big goal for the year. So I'm gonna use an example of writing a book. So this is my volume 1 that I'm working in right now. You could do this in a bullet journal as well, but I put out 2 goal planners. This one is volume 1. So let's say your big goal for the year is to write a book. And let's say there's some phases to it. So if your goal by the end of the year is to write a book, you want to kind of chunk backwards. So if we look at a map, this is kind of a map of the year. So let's say, by the end of the year, by December, you want to have a published book written. So then in order to have that done, maybe by the end of quarter 3, you want to have the final edit done. So then maybe by the end of quarter 2, you want to have the first edit done, like the rough edit done. And then at the quarter 1, once we're like chunking our way backwards, maybe by the end of quarter 1, you just want to have a brain dump. You want to have 150 pages, let's say, of just crap written. So if you want to have 150 pages written, then we'll start at quarter 1. And your one goal, the outcome is to have 150 pages just dumped. So then you say, okay, so at the end of February, maybe I want to have 100 pages done. And by the end of January, maybe you wanted to have 50 pages done. So then at the start of January, I also did my monthly planning. So I do weekly planning, monthly planning, quarterly planning, yearly planning. So then we get to January, and you want to, let's say there's 4 weeks in January, and by the end of that, you want to have 50 pages written. And it's segmented into its 4 weeks. So maybe by the end of week 3, maybe you want to have 30 pages written. Maybe at the end of week 2, maybe you want to just have 10 pages written. It doesn't have to be even. You could start off easier. And maybe by the end of week 1, you want to have kind of an outline done. So if you look at this, it's very easy to tell then, okay, what does the input need to be? Because you need to have input goals and output goals. So these are the benchmarks of the outcomes that you want to achieve. And so the actions that you're going to have to take to do this, it usually always boils down, even the most complex of goals with this one, like this particular goal has different phases where it's different things in different quarters, but the most complex goals usually always get boiled down to a habit or a routine. And in the case of this one, the routine or the ritual might be you sit down for 1 hour every morning and you work on it to try to hit your benchmark. And then once you have the ritual set, it needs to get assigned to time. It's not just, oh yes, at some point every day I need to write for an hour. No, it needs to become a habit. It needs to become ingrained. If it's like some days it's at this time and some days it's at this time and it's only some days of the week, a lot of times it can get lost in the shuffle. And if it's really important to you, I would recommend doing the same time every day, whatever time you pick. So I would pick, so like for example, maybe this person picks 5 a.m. every morning. This is my process for big goals. The second step is, okay, what do you do with all of those other little small goals? You don't need to do all the segmenting because usually these smaller goals are not nearly as complex. But you got to do 3 things. You need to figure out what do you want your goal to be by the end of the year. And I have multiple categories. I've got personal development, financial, career, creative, spiritual, health, romantic, home, rest, friends, family, and purchases for this year. So you need to figure out, okay, what is your goal in that category? This is just something to get you started. If you could think of other ones, you could absolutely do other ones. You need to figure out what is the habit going to be, the ritual. You can just go, you can skip all the segmenting and you can just go straight to what is the habit and the ritual, and then assigning it to time. When is that going to be? So let's just start with like a romantic goal. Let's say your romantic goal for the year is that you want to have a really great relationship. Well, the habit that you might pick, I mean, you could pick different habits, but the habit might be that you want weekly date nights. And then you're going to assign that to time. And so you might pick, okay, every Friday night, we're going to do a weekly date night, and it's going to be a new place every week. Maybe you set some parameters. Maybe I've got a financial goal that I want to save $10,000. So I might figure out $10,000 divided by 24 paychecks in a year and figure out what is that amount. And so then the habit that I need to do is I need to budget every other week. So on the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month, maybe I need to set that aside into a different account, whatever that amount is. Maybe I want to eat healthier this year, like for a health goal. So the habit that I need to do is I need to make sure that I have healthy healthy foods in the house. So the ritual that I need to do is maybe on Saturdays, I need to do an online grocery order. And then maybe on Sundays, I want to package up some of those snacks, put it in Tupperware so that when I go to work, it's ready for the week. And that's kind of the ritual and the habit to make sure that that happens. So then I would take all of those things and I would put them on your calendar every week. So I like a paper planner, I like time blocking, but you could use whatever method you work. Like if you prefer your phone, do that. But the part where it transitions from being all in your mind to being on the calendar is where things really change. So this is the step that you cannot resist. This is the non-negotiable. There needs to be a reminder every day about the bigger vision and making sure that it happens. So I don't like to have like all these different things. Like you have Notion and you have Evernote and you have a planner and then you have your phone. And sometimes people are getting into productivity. They have just so many things. I would not do that. I would just have one. And for me, it's the calendar. Everything gets put in the calendar. Even if it starts, it starts in a bullet journal, eventually it gets put on the calendar. Or maybe it starts on the iPad, it gets put on the calendar. So everything gets put on the calendar. If I think of a to-do item, like I need to put on snow tires on my car, it gets put on the calendar. Even if it's months advance, I will go to the monthly spread and I will put it there, because you relax so much more when you're not constantly double checking. Did I do this? Or will I need to do this? Or will I remember to do this? It's on the calendar and you can stop thinking about it. All the mental space that gets freed up and all the fun things that you can do when you're not thinking about chores is amazing. This is how you design your life. This is how you take your vision board, your Pinterest, these dreams that you have, and you make them into quarterly, you make them into monthly, and eventually they get into daily tasks that get put on the calendar, and that's when things really change. So yeah, the next video I'm going to do is all about weekly planning. So I'll do a deep dive into this step 4 in the next video. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.